appears I've managed to tag myself along with a couple of the guys from the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. No idea it was on today, but there's some cool bikes out, and I managed to find myself right in the middle of the pack, unwittingly. So hopefully I can catch up with them and have a look at some cool bikes. Here we go. A lot of Harleys, a lot of Triumphs. Old Tenere, that's a bit of a classic. Some nice bikes in the mix. Have a look at this thing. This is the first time I got it up to speed with all the gear on the back. And when I had it up on the center stand before, I was a little bit worried because it was pretty much right on balance point, which is not the way it's supposed to be. So I was thinking in the higher speeds it might start to get a little bit front end light and move around a bit, give me a bit of grief, but so far so good. I'm pretty happy with this. This was mainly just a test run, fully kitted up with everything on it, just to see how everything felt. I don't really have too much left to put on the bike now, which is lucky because I also don't have a hell of a lot of room. But I'm pretty happy with what I do have. I sort of said that I was going to keep it nice and light. I tried to keep it as minimalistic as possible, but it's hard because when you're going over alpine regions, you've sort of got to allocate for cold weather and warm weather. So I needed both clothes, and obviously the cold weather gear is a little bit bulkier than the warm weather gear, and you're limited for space on what you can bring. But going for 3 months, I kind of wanted a little bit of everything, you know, like I need a couple of pairs of shorts, I need a couple of pairs of jeans, and a jumper and that sort of thing, you know. I want to be comfortable and have enough. And I know that I could probably just crack around in my motorcycle jacket, and that's probably going to keep me warm enough. But if I wanted to go out for dinner or head into town or something like that, sort of dress a bit more smart casual, I guess, I now have the opportunity to do that. But that also comes with the downside of, you know, taking up a lot of space, adding weight to the bike, and I don't really know whether it's unnecessary yet. So that's where the Isle of Man is going to be good, because it's really going to sort of weed out the necessities. You know, like I'll be able to have a good grasp on most of the sort of conditions that I'm hoping, I know it's weird, but I'm hoping to get a little bit of rain over there just to sort of check how everything sits. The tank bag's got a rain cover, my clothes bag has a rain cover, everything else seems relatively waterproof, and you know, the stuff sitting on top of the bags, I've basically just got my camera tripod on one side and my bike cover on the other, so it doesn't really matter if either of them get wet. Everything else is inside the bags, the panniers. So I think I'm good. It's just going to be one of those things. It's a bit of a trial and error until, you know, you get it right, but we'll see how it all works out when we get there. The setup has been one of those things. It's just been this ongoing saga of trying to get things together enough that in your head it works. You know, in theory, on paper, I've got a checklist, and I go through the checklist and it's yep, I've got it all. What else am I going to need? Righto. So I start, you know, thinking about all the hypotheticals, but it's not until you sort of get out into the real world and have a look at what you're doing, have your setup there, know what you're getting into, that you really understand what you do and you don't need. So it's going to be an interesting progression, and it's one of those things, I guess, that I am just going to have to learn on the road. And it's the same with the camera gear. I'm not expecting to be perfect straight off the bat. You know, I'm still very much getting used to DaVinci Resolve, which is the editing software. I mean, that's a bloody university course in itself, that thing. But trying to do everything all in the one hit, and trying to put a lot of my eggs in different baskets and diversify what I know into different areas and trying to do everything all at once is it's good, but I'm guaranteed to forget stuff. If you're bringing unnecessary stuff and stuff that's going to sit at the bottom of the bag, I've tried my best to go, right, what are the essentials, but you don't know, you know, and you can watch all the YouTube videos and go over everything in your head of what you want to do, but at the end of the day, until you start doing it, you don't know personally what you're going to want. So it's one of those things that everyone might have a checklist, a camping essentials or whatever, but you don't live like everyone else, you know, like your needs are different to most people's. Like sure, the essentials are going to be the same, but for the most part, everyone does things differently. There's a million different ways to skin a cat when it comes to camping, and everyone's got little tricks and things that they'll find essential that I might not, and vice versa. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, I'll crack on and I'll speak to you when we get there. So I've gone through the trip. I've gone through what I'm going to be doing and a bit of the background. And the next stage is showing you the bike. So without further ado, welcome my 2019 KTM Super Adventure S. So I've started with the EvoTech Bash Guard, and then I've moved to the EvoTech Radiator Guard as well. It's a pretty good combination. I actually got that second hand, which was pretty good. I got the auxiliary lights fitted up, and they're all run back to the Hex Easy Can. So everything runs off my ignition. Moving up, I've got the CRG Rottweiler handguards, which are pretty good. They notch in and around. I'm pretty sure the Barkbusters do the same sort of setup where they notch around all your switchgear cabling, which is handy. Allows you to bypass all your cables and get your handguards in the right spot, so you're not crimping up all the underneath side of your cables. These little wing mirrors here, which sort of sit off the bike, allowed me to get the standard mirrors off, which was creating a lot of wind drag and a lot of wind buffering from the front of the bike, and it'd throw your helmet around a fair bit. Obviously just the aerodynamic pressures would go through there and then really mess you up. So took them off, and it has made a difference, although I did this at the same time, which obviously deflected the wind a lot better. It's got a little aerodynamic spoiler at the top, MRA Vario screen, which is also a nice little bit of kit, pretty well made. The only thing that I don't like about these, so to speak, is they're really small, and when you're sitting on the bike, when you want to be facing forward on the bike, the problem is you don't want to be looking down at the handlebars. You don't want to sort of be distracted from what's going on in front of you. And I found with these smaller handguards, it's actually quite distracting because they're such a small little mirror. You've really got to focus on what's going on behind you, and you've got to sort of take your eyes off the road, which can be a little bit distracting, especially if you're in heavy traffic, trying to get around obstacles and other vehicles and that sort of thing. So that's probably the only thing I don't like about them. The build quality is great, but yeah, I just probably wouldn't go and spend the money that they're worth for brand new. I got them second hand as well. So I've got the Garmin Zumo XT, which is a pretty good satellite navigation, hooks up to Kalimoto, which I've explained in my previous video. And I've also got this little cable here, which is electrified, sticks up into the tank bag, and then I plug that into this thing here. So this is a smart charger with a 20 amp out here on the USB-C side that will charge my DJI battery, and the DJI battery acts as a power bank, so I can use all that if I need to in the campsite, and I'm not really worried about using an external power source, which is good. And then I can just charge it the next day as I'm riding to it. I've got the little Rocks bar risers, which is actually good. It sort of sets it up out of the way of the tank bag now, so I'm really happy with them. The standing position plays a lot into, you know, your bar positioning. You don't necessarily need the Rocks risers, but for me they've helped a massive amount, just being able to sort of go up the highway and just being able to stand up and still sort of have a good grip on the handlebars sort of thing, just to stretch my legs, you know. Like, I'm not going off-road, I'm not using it for off-road purposes yet. So it'll just be one of those things that once I actually get around to it, I might, you know, swap it up a little bit and might take them out later if I can increase my my riding stance, but yeah, for now they're pretty good. So I've obviously got the the SW Motec tank bag. It's the Pro City, which I actually found was really good. It's got a lot of different pockets, 2 pockets on the sides. The zippers all had this little elastic strap that holds the zippers on to stop them flapping around. The build quality of it's really, really good. It's got a little waterproof cover over the top, which will slide up and over the top of where I'd plugged my tank bag into the electrical system as well. I've got the SW Motec crash bars that I installed, which are not too bad, although there was a gouge straight out of the box on the top of I don't know whether that's going to come up on camera, but just there, which is sort of a little bit disappointing. It would have just been in packaging and shipping. But yeah, the stability, they look pretty rock solid sort of thing. Just bolt into the original mounting brackets on the bike. And then that's obviously my foot guards, just to sort of stop the inner of your boot wearing up against the frame. I've got the Tusk rear rack, just tubular steel, nothing really to write home about that. It's pretty straightforward, but they're hooked up to the Krieger OS plates, and then I've got the Krieger OS 32 bags on the side, which is good. It fits pretty much all of my luggage at the moment. I haven't really sort of found anything that hasn't fit properly, so that's good. I've got the tripod sitting on top there for the camera. I've also got the Lone Rider tent, which is a good tent. I haven't actually got it out of the bag yet, but I've seen a lot of reviews on them, and I just like the idea of being able to sort of get the tent out and throw the bike straight in the back of the tent. It's just a bit of out of sight, out of mind, you know. If you sort of parked it inside, no one can see it, then no one knows you've got a bike. And this is a pretty eye-catching bike, obviously orange and grey, so it does stick out a bit. And if I'm going to be travelling to eastern parts of Europe, I just want to be, yeah, as safe as I can, I guess. So there's that. I've got my camp chair and my table, my camp table. This is my clothes. So yeah, it's basically just my backpack, and I've got my wet weather riding gear up the top here as well, which is basically just my pants. You know, like I'm going into summer, so I'm not expecting it to be too cold, sorry. So it's basically just an emergency, or when I start getting up into the alpine regions, obviously I'll change into that. But that's what I mean, you sort of need both. So anyway, moving around, I've also got the bike cover. So if I can't for whatever reason stash it, or I'm staying in a motel or a hotel for the night, I can just throw the bike cover over the top. All my camping gear's in one side, miscellaneous stuff's in the other. I've also got my light lock, D-lock, and I can't remember what the name of that light lock. It's another one that came in a package set sort of thing. That's to sort of tie it up to lampposts and whatever. And the D-lock obviously goes around the rim. So for now, that's pretty much it from what I can remember. Like I said, I've got the Hex Easy Can sitting under the seat, which runs all my auxiliary gear, electrical. I'm going to have the chain and sprockets fitted next week when I go in for a service. It's going in for its major service. So I've got a Super Stealth sprocket kit, and that's going to be just a standard gearing. I was a little bit unsure about 6 gear. It seemed to be a little bit agricultural in the lower RPM, especially sitting around 40-50 mile an hour. But if I am going to be cracking along, I didn't want to shorten the gears too much and then be in a situation where I was, you know, sitting at 5,000 or 6,000 RPM on the highway doing extended periods of riding. You know, like I think 6 gears probably exactly where it needs to be, so I just kept the gearing as it was. Super Stealth sprockets and an RK chain, major service, and yeah, we'll just see where it ends up. But that's a bit of an overview on the bike, and that's pretty much the baseline of where I'm at with everything at the moment. The wrap on the third video. Stay tuned for the actual start of the trip. Now it's going to start to get interesting because yeah, now we can actually start doing some video logs. Oh, bagel bar. Probably should have turned off there, I'm starving. Yeah, there are some really good looking women about today. I'm not going to lie, even all through Bath it was ridiculous. Anyway, look, this is the end of the video. Thanks heaps for watching, and I'll see you when I'm heading up to the Isle of Man. Righto, hooroo, bye.